Yeah, thank you. Okay. So concluding now, the Maimer concludes, having explained the avodah of the office, and the chiddush here is that Yeshua is telling the Yidden as this nevuah before his passing, which is when their avodah really begins in earnest. The avodah of Dira b'tachtonim. So he's telling them, "Ve'ekach es avichem es Avram me'ever hanor," and he's saying that the avodah of the office, which is chesed, gvura, tiferes, which is bequeathed to every Jew, that every Jew can be a merkava telikus, like the office. We should point out that there's a famous medrash that every Jew is obligated to say, "Mosai yagiu maisai," when will my actions attain or reach and be on par lemaisai avoisai, or lemaisai avos Avram Yitzchak VaYaakov, to the actions of Avram Yitzchak VaYaakov. So Chassidus points out the request here and the demand and the expectation is not that I should Pnimius feel like them, they would tzaddikim, but my actions, that's the point of the Beinoni, that my actions should be like theirs. On a behavioral level, it's possible. It's possible to be in control and do what's right. So he's saying here, so this is the avodah of the office in the three areas of chesed, the gevurah, tiferes, which we'll revisit in our summary. However, I took the me'ever lanor. So no, Yeshua is telling the Yidden in Hashem's name that you're not simply in your avodah being mamshech chesed and gevurah and tiferes, and these are wonderful, and not only connecting to me on that level, but the shirish is me'ever lanor. The shirish of the neshama and the connection the neshama has to the Eibishter is in Pnimius Atik and the Tiri Yilah, etc. All pointing to the same truly essential dimension of Hashem, for want of a better word, and it's that you are connecting to and being mamshich into your lives and into the world. So, right? So therefore, v'zehu, VaYomer Yeshua al kol ha'am k'emar havai lekei Yisrael. So Yeshua said to the people, so says the Eibishter, the God of Israel. That diak was explained in the previous ois, Elekei Avram, Elekei Yitzchak, Elekei Yaakov. Right, in the previous ois, he asked, there seems to be a repetition in Indian, there's a repetition in the Shemona Esrei. We talk about Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That's the same thing as Godel, Giber, and Noira. And he explained, no, the Elekei Avram, Elekei Yitzchak, Elekei Yaakov is saying that the Hamshacha, Elekei, the Hamshacha of the Etzem Volikus into Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, the Shoirish, that is what imbues Godel, Giber, and Noira with its true connection. Here too, he's saying, Elekei Yisrael, and I took your father Avram from the other side of the river, and I traversed him, and I made him traverse. I walked with him. Could be also understood as in the entire land of Canaan, meaning now that they're in Eretz Canaan, now the Avodah Begashmius begins. Plowing and seeding. So now comes the Gila Nevuah to Yeshua. Gila Nevuah means that the Eibush is revealing and unlocking the Pnimius and the Neshama to every Yid now, thereafter, in a deeper way than ever before, to carry out the Shlichus. They're getting this empowerment for the Avodah B'dvar Magashmiyim, that a Yid on the one hand should be in the Elam Hazeh, and not only is he here, but like the others, he makes the whole world a vehicle for likus. How does this happen? Because I took your forefathers and they came to Eretz Canaan, which is where you are now. So they already trotted the path, as it were. And in them is embodied these levels and these achievements which you will now implement ultimately in even a greater way. They were Merkava, that every Yid has this, that he can be a Merkava, which means an instrument for likus gamba sokom bedvarim agashmi. Not only when he is involved in ruchnis dikinyonim, but the ikar chiddush and the whole shlichus and the whole avodah and the whole kavana is in the dvarim gashmiyim, that he's a merkava. And how is it possible in dvarim gashmiyim, which is the opposite of ruchnius, that there should be ruchnius there? Because it all comes from atzmos, and that's the kavana. And therefore, for atzmos, there's no limitations at all. And Gashmias and Ruchnias is all ultimately from him. So when Atmos is revealed, the barriers between them dissolve, and the Yid can be in Elam Hazeh, Dvarim Gashmim, and he's in Merkava Telikus. And that's the Diuk Va'ekach Daika. I took them out. Ki, I referring to Atmos. Because Kala Gavaya Biyoser, here the Mokmatacht and Atacht me as a Dafka, because the Sherish of all of this is Va'ekach. Therefore, that's the dafka, the nesinas koyach, that it can descend so low and embrace even that which overtly has no shaykhs, not only no shaykhs, but in ways the opposite and contrary to likus, which is elam hazeh. And yet that too is embraced by drawing on the very essence of a likus, the gavaya b'yoser. Because the sheiresh of the of this empowerment that the Eibishter is bequeathing to every Yid now, this nevuah is from Atzmos, shonimna nimnois, which means literally he is withheld from the withheld, or beyond, or hidden even from the hidden. The nois hafachim, and therefore he can bear and does bear contradictions and opposites. At the essence level, there are no contradictions because all comes from him, and it transcends. Essence transcends utterly any expression, even the expression of bligvul, higher even than bligvul. Gvul and bligvul are equal. And from there, therefore, comes the empowerment, shegam hadvorim agashmi, which is the opposite of kedusha, of likus. Yas oisam keli likus, they too become vessels for likus. Yashlim b'sakavana dirib tachtoinim, and thereby Yidden complete and realize the kavanah of dirib tachtoinim. So now just a general, quick, broad, sweeping overview of each ois, and that is, you can follow me along. It's just going to give the kud of you can follow along.
One little point. You mentioned before from Tanya and from other places that when can I? Every person has an obligation to say, when can I reach the?
When will my actions?
Actions. When you explained it originally, you said, I'm not gonna be a merkava like Abraham. I'm not.
You just got muted. Chaim, you just got.
You say I'm not going to be a merkava in literally, but at least my actions. Over here, from the end of the Maimer says, not only can you be in behavior like the others, but you can be like the others itself.
No, I don't think so. The emphasis here is in the avodah of dir b'tachtonim, in Moishe b'poel. He doesn't address this distinction, but he's certainly not, pointing to this chiddush, which is not possible. We cannot be tzaddikim like them.
Gam oisam merkava lelikos.
Oisam means the gashmis, that the gashmis, the things that we deal with, all the anyonim gashmim, they become for us nothing other than a means by which to reveal and serve Hashem. Like you said earlier in the Maimer, that a Yid doesn't want Elam Hazeh or even Elam Haba. After all, what is it? Just Hashem's creation through a singular letter, Yud and Hey, which is insignificant beyond insignificant. He wants Atzmos. So that means he now renounces his physical life and Gashmius. No, he engages in it, but it means nothing for him other than to carry out his purpose. Then it's meaningful. So the emphasis is the Maisa B'Poel. But the beauty, the whole point is that this Maisa B'Poel, how could this happen? How can we in Elam Hazeh, as part of Elam Hazeh, affect such a transformation? That Elam Hazeh, that which is naturally pure ego, pure self, purely sensual, and at best, and then, as we all know, destructive and sinful, and painful and abusive. So how does this world become a merakava telikus? It couldn't be anything further from holiness than the physical world. Just by the mere fact that every physical object cannot tolerate another object in its place. So right there is division, hardcore division, integral to the very makeup of Elam Hazeh. The answer is mitzad atzmos va'ekach. So we have a shaychas atzmos. The answer is yes, because the neshama is rooted. That's the whole beginning of the Maimer. Me'evel ano, that's what Yeshua was telling the Yidden. You should know who you are. You're rooted me'evel ano, and he went into all the details of that level, Haydn, Machshava, and then Akan, and Pnimius Ak, Goliv, Glifu, Batiri, Yilah. And then the Rebbe addressed a critical part in Ois Beis. Okay, we're giving the summary now, but we just want to point out the first question was, the Zoyar's question is, Yeshua is giving a history lesson now. Everybody knows this history. What's he telling them? Why is it important to go back to, I took your forefathers from the other side of the river. Everybody knows that. And what's it negaya now? So the Zohar says, the Zohar asked the question, and the Zohar answers, he's referring to the supernal river. Aha. So the supernal river is Machshava, the beginning of Ishtalshalas, as it were. And you should know that the Neshama is Kameh Evel Ano. Now, a very important question in the second ois was, why do we say Tahirihi? Tahirihi goes on Atzilus, Bepratius, and Tahira even goes on Atzilus the Klolos, which is the Eid Sof. Lifnat Tzimtzum is also called Tahirihi in the bigger picture. And that's very strange, because when you say Tahir, you're implying also Tumma. Surely the word should be Kadoshahi. Kadosh means truly Muvdil. Zohar says Kodesh is Mila Begarmei. Kodesh is something which is on its own, completely removed. That's what it means, removed fundamentally and essentially, removed from anything else. So why are we describing the Neshama as Tahira? Kadoshahi. The answer, Medidik answer is, that Itaka comes from Pnimius Ak, and the Lashon is Tira Yilah, which means again the supernal light. Tira means light, but not from the Eir Gufa, but from the Kalim, which we explained to me, not a compromise or less, because the Kali is Moshe is deeper than the Eir. Gvul is rooted deeper than Bligvul. Containment is a deeper investor than expression. Control is a greater effort for us than natural self-expression, because we are a reflection of the divine. And Hashem made it that way, therefore. Although for him, ultimately, all is equal. But in the system, no matter how high you go, Ein Sof, and in the Koyach Gvul is rooted deep, even though it manifests lower. That endless paradox. So he's saying that the Neshamas come from a level which is already connected in the most sublime level to Gvul, which in the end is the source of Tumah. Yes, that's the point. That the Neshama already implanted in it is the Pnimius HaKavana, which is, I want you to go down to a world where there's going to be Tumah and impurity and a world of darkness and so on. And that world you're going to transform. How could we possibly do that? As the Maimon says at the end, because you're rooted and you're very, verily a part of me. And this all comes from me. And therefore there are no barriers. And even Elam Hazeh and Dafka Elam Hazeh can become the deepest dira, the most intimate connection or expression of Alikus. So that's why it's Tahiri. And this is the message that Yeshua is conveying in these words to Yidden as they embark now on the great mission of Dira B'Tachtonim and what that's going to intake for the next thousands of years. So then he went to the Pratim. So the details of all of this, that you should know that I gave this to the Ovis, and the Ovis are a Merkava, and you can be a Merkava. That's bequeathed to you. And a Merkava in every area, all broad areas. The Avodah of Chesed, and the Avodah of Gvura, and the Avodah of Tiferes, which explained at length. And and then start to talk about the avodah. He went into great detail to explain the pasuk. The pasuk which deals with the office is the Gemara says, what does it all mean? That Goy Gadol goes on Avram, Gadol goes on Avram, I'll bless you goes on Yitzchak, and make your name great is Yaakov, and V'yei Bracha is we conclude with the Magen Avram. So this was explained at length in the Maimer. That what is it? All starts with the Goy Gadol. You brought the Medrash, the Eibush told Avram that this Goy Gadol will descend from you. And what's the significance of being a great nation? Because the Yidden are a reflection of Gadol Havayah. So every Yid has the inyan of what? Of Yudke Vavke. That is the inyan of Gadol in the general sense. The Yudke Vavke. And explain what that is in Avodah. That Yud is the Keich of Mesiras Nefesh. And Hey is the Isboninus. And what's the Isboninus? The Isboninus is, on the one hand, he looks at the Marabba Masecha, Magodlu Masecha, the incredible, complex, vast, intricate creation. And yet he's misbeinem. All of this, Elam Haba and Elam Hazeh, is all merely created by Hashem's letters. As explained from Tanya, how insignificant a singular letter is in the face of endless letters and words and the thoughts and then the emotion and the intellect that produces that letter. It pales and pales and pales to the point that it's almost indiscernible, although a letter is a letter. And yet, that's all kavayochel, not kavayochel. That's the whole output of the Eibush, as it were, the investor to create, hey, this world, and you're the ruchnisdik olam. So he doesn't want, there's no interest, therefore. He's misbunyan with his seichel. Why do I want to connect to this when it's so significant? I want the Eibush himself. And that he has in Torah mitzvahs. And then the world becomes, as we said, extremely significant and essentially and critically significant because it's the expression of Elikus, becomes the Merkabah Elikus. So that's the union of the Yud and the Hey. The Yud is the Keich of Mesiras Nefesh. That's how it all begins. But then he's misbeinen, that's kind of potential. When it comes to the crunch, he'll give up his life. But then he has to bring it down to Ma'aseh B'Poel. So that starts with the mind, these bonus. And that inspires Vav, the union of Limud HaTorah. As Torah descends and comes down to this world in Allah's B'Poel, and we suggested that that's the connection, as it says this elsewhere, to the 6 orders of the Mishnah, Vav, which are in fact the reflection of the 6 Midas. And then the final Hey, which is Ma'aseh B'Poel, Tzedakah, or rather, really the Tzedakah, and Tzedakah is Tzedek Hey, and Hey, because all mitzvahs, Hey, which is Malchus, which is Ma'aseh, all mitzvahs are in fact Tzedakah rather is, or all mitzvahs are an act of tzedakah, and tzedakah is that which incorporates all mitzvahs. So he brings this whole Avodah down in his Ma'aseh B'Poel. But, not the but, all of this is suffused with, it's not simply the Avodah of Chesed, Gevurah Tiferes, of Limud HaTorah, and so on, all of these things, but it's Me'evel HaNahar, it's Elekei Avram, Elekei Yitzchak, Elekei Yaakov, in all of these particular Avodas, and all the details of his everyday engagements. So externally, it's a moment of discipline, now a moment of chesed, and now it's learning Torah, now it's tefillah, but it's all suffused with the essence of the ekach, the lekei Avram, lekei Yitzchak, lekei Yaakov, which is what empowers the Jew in his avodah to make dvarim gashmi merkava telikus. There was also, a beautiful. In Avodah, when he spoke about the Ovis, that a Yid is Mamshech, Yid through the Avodah of Chesed is Mamshech, Gewaltige Chasodim. The Avodah of Yitzchak is Takbedes Achayis, is even more intense, even a higher level. And then Yaakov, the combination of both, implicit in all of this with this tremendous brachas for the Begashmias, quoting the Psukim there of the success of the Ovis and how they prospered. So this is all the indonim that a Yid is mamshech into the world. Obviously, as we always say when the Rebbe says a maimer, he's not merely saying divrei Torah, as it were, giving us insight, but the maimer is the hamshach of these brachas and inyonim and the empowerment of everything the maimer speaks of. It's living living Torah, living Elikus. All right, friends, that was a summary, but this is not of course, a replacement to review the Maimah yourselves over Shabbos, which I hope everybody will do. If you have a printer at home, you print it out, and you'll be able to review it. We'll begin now the next Maimah. We good? Any questions, comments? Okay, so the next Maimah I sent you yesterday. This is the Maimah that the Rebbe said, Achron Shel Pesach, of that year. And it looks like that it's a hemshech in some way of the Maimah we just learned. Just glancing at it. I didn't learn it yet, just the first ois. So let's begin. Yep. Achron Shel Pesach, Tavshin Chav. Last day of Pesach at the Sudas Mashiach, 1960. המשכילים יזהירו כזאת הרקיע, and those who are wise will radiate like the radiance of the heavens. Umatzdikei harabim, and those who did tzedakah for the many, kekechovim, like the stars, leilam vod, forever. This is a pasuk, friends, in Daniel, and I want to read you the context of the pasuk, because b'hashgacha pratis, you will see how relevant it is to our current times, and you're all aware of the idea that came up that every Yid should have a letter in the Sefer Torah, because the Rebbe, when he started this campaign, quoted these psukim in Daniel, and here's the full quote. Yud Beis Gimel. At that time, it's referring to on the eve of Mashiach's coming. Yamad Michael, this is the angel Michael will stand, the great heavenly prince, who stands in support of the members of your people. That's Malach Michael. And there will be a time of trouble, such as there has never been since there was a nation until that time. But at that time, your people will escape all that are found written in the book, in this book. And that's an allusion to, the Rebbe said, when he quoted this, when he started this whole campaign, that those that have a letter in the Sefer Torah will be blessed. And that's the reason for this campaign, friends. And then it continues with psukim we're all familiar with. And then Mashiach comes, and many of those who sleep in the dusty earth will awaken. These for everlasting life, and these for shame, for everlasting abhorrence. This needs commentary, but we get the sense. And now comes the pasuk that this Maimah begins with. The wise, or the Maskilim, will shine like the radiance of the firmament, and those who teach righteousness or do righteousness to the multitude will shine like the stars forever and ever. That's the context of this pasuk. Meisa b'Zoyar, and says in the Zoyar al pasuk zeh, which the Alter Rebbe quotes in Tanya, in the Geras HaKodesh, says the Zoyar, B'hai chibur dilach. So Eliyahu Hanavi is speaking to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he says to him, with this work of yours, this composition, the Sefer HaZoyar, the Iyo Sefer HaZoyar, which is Sefer HaZoyar, begin and in the merit of Tasidim Lemita Milona Dechaya, that will come a time in the future when Yidden will taste from the tree of life, which is a reference to Pnimius HaTorah, which is Chassidus, which is revealed at the end of Golos. This is one of the great prophecies that prophesies the revelation of Chassidus, the dissemination of the inner dimension of Torah called the tree of life to all Yidden before Mashiach comes. Because Eliyahu concludes with this book, with your teachings, and with this, that Yidden will taste of it, Yifkun Bey min Golusa Barachame, or Barachame. Yidden will go out of Golus with mercifully. So again, this is one of the primary sources of the revelation of Chassidus, the means by which we end and leave the Golus and evolve and enter in to Yemais HaMashiach. In brackets, and so it was written in the collection of letters of the Baal Shem Tov, which you're all familiar with, that's Malach HaMashiach. That 1 year, Rosh Hashanah, the Baal Shem Tov, soul ascended ever higher. He writes this in a letter to his brother-in-law, Rabbi Gershon of Kitav, in his own holy handwriting. And he says, my soul ascended on high, and I asked, and I came to there's much detail to it, and I came to the portal where Mashiach's soul resides, and I asked him, when is Sir coming? That's actually a pasuk also, a paraphrase from Sefer Daniel. And Mashiach answered the Baal Shem Tov, Mashiach Futz, also quoting a pasuk. When you're spread, your well springs outside. Again, the same idea that the revelation of Chassidus and the dissemination of Chassidus is a critical component in the tikkun of the world and bringing it into the era of Yemais HaMashiach. Without going into any detail or elaboration now, because we're all familiar that the basic reason is because Yemais HaMashiach is all about knowing God. It's Deus Hashem. And so Chassidus is the critical taste of that in preparation. Like he says in the Zohar, the mitam bilana dechaya, they will taste of the tree of life, in the same way that we are bidden to taste of the foods of Shabbos before Shabbos. In order to create the appetite for Shabbos on a physical level. It's also in order, if things have to be fixed, now's the time. You taste the food before. So too, we are tasting of the knowledge of God. We're learning Chassidus and learning about Hashem. It's only a taste because we're not experiencing it fully or seeing it. But this is the preparation and the bridge to redemption. So that's the conclusion. Now the Rabbi continues. So based on what we just said now, the Zohar's pirush on this pasuk, which meaning? So what is the pasuk saying? That the wise will radiate like the firmament of the heaven, and those who do righteousness for the many like the stars in the sky. This illumination, the pasuk that Daniel speaks of, says the Zohar, is talking about the end of Golus, when Yidden will be learning Chassidus and be illuminated with the inner dimension of Torah, the heavenly teachings, the firmament and the stars. That's what this prophecy is talking about. At the end of days, before Mashiach comes, there'll be this radiance, this heavenly radiance on earth. And what's that? Chassidus, Pnimis HaTorah. Your teachings, says Eliyahu to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, which Yidden will taste of and savor and be inspired by at the end of Golus. So the Rebbe now says, VaMaskilim. So it comes out that this pasuk, that the wise will illuminate and be irradiated and so on, if there's such a word. So this prophecy, this nevuah is talking about the last days of Golus, on the heels of Mashiach's coming, before Mashiach comes. However, that seems to contradict another quote. However, in Medrash ala pasuk, so the pasuk, when Hashem tells Moishe Rabbeinu, this is yet in Mitzrayim, just before Yetzias Mitzrayim, the first mitzvah, that the month of Nisan should be for you reckoned as the first month of the year. So the Medrash gives many pirushim on these words. One of them is this: Moshe Melech. The matter can be compared to a king. Shekidish Isha, he betrothed a woman. Because of law, matonus ma'otis, in the contract, the tenoyim, as it were, the engagement contract, he wrote only pledged small gifts, few gifts. Kivin shebola kachta, when he came to take her, kosav la matonis rabbis kabal, then he wrote and gave her many gifts like a husband would do. End of Moshe. Continues the Medrash, kach ha'olam hazeh erusin hayu. This world before Mashiach comes is merely the betrothal. And therefore, all we get from Hashem now currently are gifts few in number, small. What did the Eibishter give us? The month, the moon. This Hashem gives us. The moon you should look at, because and that's yours. And the moon will determine your calendar, and that's what I'm giving you. Quite simply, literally, this month, or the renewal of each month, I have given to you. However, when Mashiach will come, then Hashem will be the true unity, the marriage, the actual union. The actual union with Hashem, that's in Nisuyin. Chuppah, which has, by the way, chuppah means 7 different things. They're all related. One of them is the canopy that you stood under when you got married, but there's many dimensions. At any rate, it's the union of Nisuyin. So the Medrash continues, then when Mashiach will come, the Eibishter will give us not only the moon, but everything. And the Medrash quotes the pasuk that this Maimah begins with. The wise will radiate like the radiance of the firmament of the sky. And those who do good for the many, like the stars, leilam void forever. So what are we getting then? Not just the moon, but the skies, the heavens, and the stars. So you have a contradiction. So it comes out that this pasuk, this is already talking about the Nisuyin, which happens after Mashiach comes, not the Achana, like the Zohar said. The Nimtzo comes out, so it comes out that the meaning of this pasuk is expounded differently by different sources. The Zohar says it's pre-Mashiach, and the Medrash says it's talking post-Mashiach. But the Rebbe will reconcile, as he always does, as Chassidus does. It's known according to the general klal. Now, interesting, I just want to point this out. You don't see the footnotes there. You have to go to the end of the pages, right? You just see the number. But at the end, you see it. Anyway, the footnote is to Stei Chemed. It's a long story with it, but the Stei Chemed was lived in Baghdad, a great Svardische Gaon Olam, extraordinary Gaon, didn't live that long ago, it was maybe 100 years ago. And he wrote this encyclopedia, an encyclopedia of Torah, period. Talmud, everything. If I'm not mistaken, he wrote it at a time when he didn't have the Sfarim at hand. He had learned them, but didn't have access to his vast library, and it was written by heart. Whole story with the Fidige Rebbe, who published it in America. One day we'll tell you that story. I mean, you have to be a very big Talmud Chacham to learn and understand what he writes. Every Lubavitch and many Lubavitches have the set because it's very precious. And I'm sure people learn it. To be translated in English would be, I don't know, scores and scores of volumes to make it intelligible to the intelligent scholarly reader. Anyway, so he has a whole section on klolim, on principles of how to approach Torah study. And many, this is, it's readable, it's learnable. I'm not suggesting that it isn't. Anyway, so the Rebbe writes here, he says, the Klal Yadua, who writes like this, he makes the obvious point that when you have an argument in Torah between two sages about events, past or future, you can't have an argument about what happened or what will. It's going to be this way or that way and both be true. Both can't be true. You can argue about, what ought to be the law. So there's this perspective, that perspective, but you can't argue about facts. And this is an argument about fact, it would appear. Is this pasuk talking about here or then? So that he explains, the Rebbe continues, therefore you have to probe deeper, explains the Stei Chemed, and recognize and understand that they're not arguing, that they're both true. Each is expressing a different dimension or level, which the Rebbe will now lay out before us. Let's see. Moving, so in light of this cloud, there is no machlekes and betzias. we have this offer, so many times that, like we just said now by the Shira. How did the Yidden respond to Moishe Rabbeinu when the Shira was said? There's 3 opinions. The answer is they're all true. Some this way, some that way, some the other way, or on a deeper level. Each one responded on these 3 levels. Now, likewise here, Moving Shabbeis and Yonah Mimem, as both are true. There is this pasuk and its message as it refers to after Mashiach's coming. And there's also the same inyan before its message as it applies to before B'yas HaMashiach. He illustrates, we find this also with Yetzias Mitzrayim itself. About which it says, and this was to my Marmigo. Not in the Hemshech, but we learned. We see that Yetzias Mitzrayim is connected to B'yas HaMashiach. Right? Like you went out of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders then. There's a connection between Yetzias Mitzrayim and B'yas HaMashiach. So too, we're going to point out that in the same pasuk, we'll continue this Be'ez Hashem, Be'ez Hashem on Monday, that in the same pasuk there's a reference to before Gula and post Gula, as the Maimon will explain.